this is Travis,
Hey, hi, it's Kareem.
and today we're going to introduce the topic of anxiety and how it
Wait, but what
means
kind of anxiety?
all sorts of anxieties.
No, high anxiety.
High
Because that's what
anxieties.
today's episode is called, high anxiety. Yeah, so we're obviously introducing the topic of anxiety while being high, because what better way to help with anxiety than being high? Um, so anxiety, oof, what a deep, dark, disgusting topic of
Yeah, it's
anxiety.
not fun, and I think everyone has it, whether they admit it or not.
What are you talking about? I don't have anxiety.
You don't?
No.
Oh,
I
neither do
am
I.
I can't have what I am.
Yeah, but you have high anxieties, though.
I'm kidding. Okay, so anxiety. What is anxiety? It's kind of like, I guess, a
Psychological feeling where you're just like antsy or nervous or the mind never stops. I don't know. We probably should have looked up the definition of
yeah,
anxiety.
but no, I don't like doing that because I want to know what your interpretation is. Like, obviously, everyone can know and look up a definition of something and be like, okay, but what is your, like, when you say what is anxiety, it's what is anxiety to you?
It's the things I get overwhelmed with or overworked with or um, I don't know how to
I
describe
don't
it.
feel that that's how my anxiety is. I think mine is almost so baseless. There's almost no telling why I am. For me, when I've ever been anxious or had anxiety about something, it honestly comes to me like a force, something that I can't even control. Because as someone who is relatively logical in everything that I do, I tend to just process something and let it
Yeah.
go. And I'm like, okay, cool. But in a weird way, my anxiety is still like this stem or like this like thread that is weaved through my entire being. It's
Yeah.
almost become a part of me.
And for myself, I think it's more of it's circumstance. Like
Circumstantial.
yeah, like something happened or something's going to happen or my mind's overthinking something
But
and
you're able to
it's like
compartmentalize all of that and,
uh
and kind of weave through that anxiety and be like, oh, process, get it, and then be stable for a
and
substantial amount of time.
identify the problem or where the issue is and then fix it.
See, and that's great, and I think that's a healthy thing to do, and I do that, but I find myself still not being able to rid myself of that anxiety,
Yeah.
and that's something that I think we need to talk about in the next segment. Is where does your anxieties come from, and why? How have they shaped you, and what are you doing to, I guess, navigate through those anxieties?
Yeah.
Let's do it.
All right. See you soon.
Hello, I'm back. Sorry, I had anxiety.
Me too.
Okay, so going into this next segment is now what are anxieties and where do they stem from and how are we surviving with those anxieties? Travis?
Yeah, so I think some of, my anxieties, like I said before, is very circumstantial for most of them. There are some other ones that are very, different. But, a lot of the things, I get worked up over is, deadlines from work or stresses from work or, planning events or parties, things that are, it's leading up to something and those type of things, you get, you know, overworked or you stress about or
Okay, but those are a little bit more general. But like, what are specific things? What do you know? So you say deadlines with your job. So we're not going to
yeah,
obviously discuss your job because that's not relevant to.
yeah.
I mean, it's relevant, but we're not getting there yet. But what are very specific anxieties that you find? Other like you said obviously deadlines and plans and stuff like that, and family. But like, give us examples of something that that you typically face in a day or within a week that causes that anxiety.
Um, there's nothing that's reoccurring. It's all very based on circumstances. And so it's
So it sounds like you're someone with anxiety because of just I guess the climate of the earth right now, right? Like there's just the way things are, and you're kind of taking them head on and trying to healthily work through it and process it and let it go while they're or other
Yeah.
people that see anxiety a little bit differently.
And typically when I get anxiety, I'm able to process it very quickly, because I'm always thinking, and I can, figure out where the source of it's coming from and kind of shut it down, or, figure out how to correct it. And that's rare, I think, in a lot of people, but I don't have those
Well, good
reoccurring
for
anxiety.
fucking you. Okay, good
Oh
for
no, I still have
fucking
my
you.
problems,
I'm just kidding.
and but I think another one that I really get worked up over is kind of social anxieties and just how I'm perceived, and that's some of it goes into confidence, but there is a level of anxiety that comes with that. And I think that would be the one that haunts me, on a day-to-day basis, is what people think of me, what people see in me, what they don't see in me, those type of things
Which
causes.
I think is a fair basis of your or what like a derivative. How do you say the word? It's like I can see why that's derived. Like your anxieties are derived
Yeah,
from that because
derivative.
derivative. There you go, derivative. I don't know what's wrong with me. Oh, it's because I'm high. Sorry. Um, but no, I definitely believe that's valid because that's a slight leeway into to me even with to me. This is I know you're just talking about you, but now that we're on to me, no. The segue is that I feel my anxieties mainly come from my appearance. I actually don't mind that I talk a lot and that I have this wild personality and I'm in your face and just I think I'm just someone who represents the most extroverted introvert you can ever meet, which is someone who's really actually an observer who likes to listen but almost tap dances and with it through my personality. I almost tap dance. Like I almost want to like entertain everyone and
Yeah.
distract people from like how I feel, I physically look.
Yeah,
And I
I
think that always
mean, you have a joking heart. You're kind of a little, clown without the red nose.
yeah, I'm
Um,
the metaphoric clown or the metaphoric tap dancer.
you bring light into a room of, I don't want to say darkness because that just sounds evil, but in when everyone else is down and around you, you can figure out a way to cheer them up and make them smile.
Oh,
And
well, thanks for observing that.
yeah,
But that's kind of why I do it because the irony is helping other people through their anxieties actually relieves mine, and that's the weirdest thing. It's like my way of weaving out the anxiety and like trying to process and understand it and just try to rid myself of it is by helping other people. And I find that if I help other people, it serves some type of like divine purpose for me in a weird way. I mean, I don't want to sound self-righteous when I say that. I do it because I like it. I do it because it makes my anxieties feel reduced. And even though I know that they're still present and they're still there, very
yeah,
much being a part of me, the only way I can continue to live my life is by being that way. That's the reason why I do my best at all costs to love people, to be kind,
yeah,
to help, to be attentive, to listen, because I think that if that's the only way I can keep my anxieties at bay, then that's what I got to do,
yeah, for sure.
and my anxieties, other than, my parents, because I always felt like the outcast wherever I was, just because, of course, being of Middle Eastern heritage, I always felt the point being born and raised in Jersey in the USA, of course, like I think with the way war happened and after 9/11, despite people being ignorant about my ethnicity and how, just because my family comes from that region that we were all categorized or whatever, but I won't even get into how ignorant I think people are or were during that time. It still could be to this day. I always felt like my name was associated with the way I looked. Obviously, my name
Yeah,
being Kareem, I always felt like people had a preconceived notion of me, and my anxieties always came based off of my appearance. So it started at a very young age. Before I could even think about body dysmorphia, I was already thinking about how people were going to perceive me because of my name. So my name to this day still gives me sometimes, a little bit of angst because before people meet me that, aren't really a person of color or anyone that's really necessarily considered ethnic, I'd always be like, oh, they're going to judge me. They're going to think I have a terroristic background or something. And then the next thing I think would come with my physical appearance. Like I was always super thin growing up and I always felt like I suffered a little bit with an eating disorder. The eating disorder was based basically upon like whenever I was anxious, I would not eat. I would starve myself and I would always feel that I was choking and it was horrible. So whenever I was anxious, I didn't eat, and people would then ask me why I wasn't eating and poke fun at my weight, and then that would make me even more anxious, causing me to even have even less of an appetite.
Yeah.
So then I was just eating in a corner by myself when everyone was gone. It was the only way I can survive.
And I think some of, how I said about social anxieties and how I'm perceived and looked at also goes on looks as well.
Yeah.
So, I can relate on that on just of what people think,
When it comes to
comparing,
social anxiety, I think you do a great job though at holding conversations. And I think if you do feel anxious, I would never know. And that's what's awesome because it means you're actively like working on it.
Yeah, but my mind doesn't stop. So, like, someone asks me a question and then, they go that way. I'm sitting there overthinking, did I say the right thing or did I not say the right thing?
Yeah, I hate that.
And I sit there and like overthink my answers or overthink my thoughts. Or I know they're going to come up to me and ask me this question. So I'm like kind of preconceiving an idea in my head of what I'm going to say because at times, I can't necessarily articulate fully.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's fair because I think right overthinking is what leads to anxiety. It's almost like they're brother and sister. The overthinking is a direct relative of anxiety because your overthinking is what leads to anxiety. And I think that's kind of like a good basis. But that's the thing. I don't overthink things that cause my anxiety. I literally just feel like sometimes I'm addicted to my anxiety. I feel like I'm an addict. I really
have
am.
like a quiet or a dead space in your head where there's nothing, you're not really thinking about anything and you're just kind of, sitting on the couch or sitting in the corner or sitting in the shower, just letting the water hit you type thing. And you're not thinking about one specific thing, but you just feel numb to life, like that type of piece.
Or even just like when things are good, when things are actually good and things are normal and things are even looking up, it's almost as if I don't deserve the feeling of being good or comforted or happy to be sustainable because I'm not used to it. So then I think I don't deserve it. So therefore my mind is just like, bring back your addiction, which is anxiety. I'm addicted to it. I don't allow good things to happen to me. It's almost like I don't think I deserve it to the point where I sabotage everything around me that could be good just because a familiar feeling is anxiety. And it's sad. It really is like your own human drug, your own organic drug to yourself. I don't know. I think that's why I feel like at the end of the day, no matter how much work I put into it, I think I have to learn that as long as I can control my anxieties and I can, differentiate whether it's an organic anxiety, and it's an organic anxiety, which means it's my own anxiety that I'm giving off. If I can differentiate that versus like an anxiety that's actually based off something or based on something that I can actually control, and if I learn to identify the two and put effort into the one that's actually going to have a payoff, then that's how I think I can be at a baseline of like, okay, this is normal anxiety. You can be a functional person. You don't need to.
It's just not control. It's like just being aware of it and kind of, like self-aware. If especially if you have the repeating offenders that come over and over and over again, you recognize what those triggering points are, which is a part of your control, but you have to be aware of it or the recognition. Then you have your controls in place.
So it's kind of like finding like a mantra almost, or the mantra is supposed to be that reminder that whatever anxiety that you're facing, you've felt it before, and now you're doing what you always do. It's almost as if like someone is always biting their fingernails, or someone who I don't know just has like a weird like tweak or whatever.
Yeah.
It's just about before you find yourself getting there, but it's such a force. It is such a force when I tell you how things can be completely fine and then it just comes at me heavy, hard, deep, rough. Like it can cause me to completely shut down because it's so bad that I don't even know how to speak.
But do you think like sometimes that force that's coming is a action from something else that's been triggered, such as like lack of sleep or some other like external
but
piece
I don't get good
just
sleep because I'm anxiety ridden. That's what I'm saying. Anxiety is.
But it has to start somewhere.
It has, of course, it has to start somewhere. But it started with my upbringing and just how I was shaped as a human, as a kid into a teen into an adult. Is that these anxieties just became so like normal for me, and constantly being in survival mode and trying to make myself happy and whatever I could possibly do, that it was so rough for me that when I'm not anxious and there is a little bit of a good moment, it's almost so foreign to me and so like unusual that I'm like almost disgusted with myself that I'm like, why am I happy? There's no reason to be happy because realistically speaking, it's false. It's going to end any minute now. And then the anxiety is going to come right back. So I literally kill off any good thing that can happen to me faster because of that.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why I think it's pretty interesting. But I don't know. These are anxieties. I think anxiety is always going to be a topic we'll talk about in the future because I think it's going to be something that's an element in every conversation and why.
Like you said earlier, it's kind of threaded through things, so it's going to, intertwine with, a lot of the other topics that we're going to discuss in the future.
Okay, so I think that's a good point to kind of leave it at. I think we'll definitely, develop more into our anxieties and why we are the way we are today through our next topics. But let's finish off by our third segment. Hello there.
Hi, anxiety.
Shut up. So we're back with our third and final segment, and the question that we have here is, why is anxiety relevant?
It's a very good question. I think from my perspective, it's relevant because I think everyone has it in different levels and different capacities, and it's being aware of not only your own, but also others. And I think that's an important piece of the world to understand.
Okay, so it's relevant because we all have it, different levels and different capacities. Okay, so and now we need to be aware and mindful of other people's anxieties and learning to navigate through our own as well as those in our personal circle or even in our day-to-day life, whether it's through work or people that we're passing on the street. And I think that's a good way of connecting with everyone because you're saying, okay, we all have it, right? But if we all have it at different levels and some people can understand if they have it and some people may not understand if they have it, how does that help someone? Like what tools or what verbal cues can someone give off to another person that allows them to know, hey, listen, I have anxiety. You may not be acknowledging of yours, but I have it. So please be patient with me.
Some of that goes back towards just understanding and getting to know the person you're talking to. It's hard to meet a stranger on the streets and understand where they come from and their anxieties. But I do believe as you get to know family and friends. Well,
really quick, just to insert there because I think that's something that I really want to know is that what if you do though know that you can see if someone overreacts in public, maybe you're just looking at them like, you know what, I'm not going to be reactive to them overreacting because I can clearly see they're anxious about something or something's really, really frustrating them and it's heavily on their mind. Like maybe identifying to learn a little bit more compassion and empathy and seeing someone freak out. Yes, you can still, within reason, try to calm someone down if it's obviously getting to a point where it's verbally violent or physically violent.
And those are the rare or extreme circumstances to things.
But they're happening quite often nowadays. I mean, we're seeing especially with how social media has been, we're seeing all these public freakouts. There's whole compilations on that, and it's how do we avoid it? How can we diffuse those things? But that's for another topic. But I just wanted to say that it could still happen amongst people on the street.
Yeah, and it's being aware of it. If it's an outward expression, and you can pick up on someone. If their foot's really stomping or tapping the floor or those type of things. Kind of like Thumper and Bambi type thing going on. It's like maybe that's a sign. Okay, and look around them and see what's going on, and you can identify.
I guess read the room essentially. Just read the room. Be more aware, and also try to maybe relate. Maybe relate in any. I think the most beautiful thing to do to stop most fights that are anxiety based or driven is that relate. Try to relate. Try to see body language, and maybe if you recognize their body language is similar to yours, maybe have compassion because maybe they're dealing with exactly what you're dealing with, or maybe not the exact thing, but the feeling. The outcome of that feeling is still similar enough to say, you know what, or I get it, I kind of get it and I feel bad.
Or say if you're in a conversation with a friend or a family or something and all of a sudden the opposite person, you see them get anxious or fidgety or those type of things, maybe just change the subject. Drop the conversation because the conversation itself is what is causing the issue.
Right, that's true. That's a good point.
It's sometimes it's just best to maybe not make your point. Because it's going to upset them or make them anxious, and then it's just going to, ruin the day or the night or the party. And
it all comes back to ego and pride potentially disrupting. Your ego and pride is disrupting their peace because now it's almost like that conversation that you want to have or something that information you want to pry out of them or whatever you're talking about maybe is getting the best of someone. by you seeing them react so strongly to what you're saying, it almost makes sometimes people, I feel, have a pride or an ego, because now they're somehow trying to like feel self-righteous about, well, nothing I said could have caused you that. Like they don't want to, instead of just stopping or maybe identifying and being aware, they want to almost feel like, I don't know, vindicated for making you
Yeah.
feel that way by actually inadvertently, I guess they don't acknowledge it, but making you feel more anxious because of it.
And you also have to acknowledge, people's anxieties if they come to you with them, and, kind of be receptive of them also, and listen to what's going on in their mind and head, because you know what? They might just need an outlet to, vent, and some of their anxieties might actually be solved if they were just allowed to vent. So it's being aware and listening to people. And, sometimes that's tough because, sometimes you just don't want to listen, or you're in the moment where you're busy or something. But I think that's something to help anxieties is, have those open ears to your friends and family.
So for the people that
and
you
listen.
do know, I guess
Yeah,
your advice is
strangers
to
is
just make
tough,
more.
like, unless you're standing in a line for Wendy's or something, and it's like, the lady in front of you is just going crazy about her kids. Like, you can really have those little.
But you're saying for the people you do know, essentially, you're just saying maybe make a little bit more effort and time to just be more receptive or more of an ear to those people
And
that you
be
know
more
suffer with anxiety.
empathetic that others are, around you are struggling either in the same issues or completely different issues. And you have to be very empathetic towards it and sympathetic. There's a lot going on in the world, like we've said previously. And I just think that we just need to be aware. And
maybe the state of the world right now is it's I think what I've taken from it is that we're all supposed to be kind of humble and put on the same playing field, but unfortunately there's a lot of people that are fear driven and they become more me, which I understand that's how the government and the way the world is shaping us to feel, but we have to be these pillars of strength and humanity to say that what's going to stop the vicious cycle is if we stop hurting other people because of our hurt and our anxieties, and by identifying that similar anxiety or that similar outcome of our anxieties, which is that we're all obviously anxious, right? The anxiety causes us, like being anxious causes anxiety, and that anxiety causes us like whatever, like pain and whatever, level of pain it is. So why not use that to relate and say, you know what, I know what it feels like to feel this way, so I don't want anyone else to feel that way. Let me stop it with this. And that identifying in one in each other is gonna, I think, hopefully give more people a feeling that, what I'm feeling right now is so temperamental and it's not going to dictate my life, because I know that not everyone around me feels like this every day, because I think we all feel like we all are also anxiety ridden, that it's almost become a normality just to be anxiety ridden and then also rude about our anxieties.
Going back to, breaking the vicious cycle is, I think a lot of it is kindness. And every action you do and things that you say has to be, acts of kindness or words of kindness, and not belittle people or bring people down.
Or treat everyone like if that was your sibling or your mother or your father or your uncle or your aunt or grandmother.
Because you don't know what that person's going through. You don't know if that person just lost their mother, or if that person, lost their job in the grocery store. Or
me, because I lost my mom this year, just saying.
And you just don't know where they're coming from. And, and it's just... have to be there, be kind.
Be kind, be present, be aware, and also understand that if you have weak moments, that you're not your weak moments, and it's okay to still grow and learn as long as you identify
you have to acknowledge and recognize.
Yeah.
And as long as you acknowledge and recognize and you put a foot forward that you're going to, strive to be better and strive to, fix those anxieties that, keep you up at night, then, that's the first step of all of it.
I think awareness is the first step, right? Awareness is once you're aware that you have anxiety, now you have to ask yourself, does my anxiety dictate how I treat others? Or does my anxiety, shape me to be stronger because I'm growing from it or learning from it? Like you have to ask yourself these questions. Like these are things that I wish people wouldn't just be on fast forward or autopilot and just say anxiety is my life and that's it, because that's how I feel like my life is. But I'm through this podcast trying to identify and actually make changes to saying that I'm like not just an addict for life. Like I could move past it. And
a lot of people also, just uses I have anxiety. It's just an excuse for their bad behavior or something that they're actually doing. And you see, some people do that within the world.
Yeah, and I think that's a good way to come to an end or a conclusion of this, because again, anxiety is never going away. It's always going to be a theme throughout this podcast. Of course, we specified that it was high anxiety, but it's because we're talking about anxiety while being high. And I think that it's kind of like an oxymoron because when you're high, you feel like you're more at ease and more at bay and more relaxed.
Yeah.
But for me, it's actually ironic because my anxiety is still very much there. It's just more like now I'm staring at it. It's almost before it's behind me and it's like a shadow and I'm like trying to find it and I'm like, like get away, go away. But when I'm high, it's kind of like, all right, now I'm staring at you in front of me and it's like now trying to understand you. Like, why anxiety are you doing this? Why anxiety are you in my life? Why anxiety are you, coming back to me as if, you're addicted to me and I'm addicted to you. Like, what is this relationship? Do you want to break up? Because I want to break up. You don't want to break up? We're married? What? No. Till death do us part. No. It's like...
Yeah, but unfortunately, that's how it is. Anxiety will always be with us.
So maybe my anxiety will go away once I learn how to be a better listener to you. And anxiety, you'll learn how to love me once you listen to me. And we can have a great marriage with each other. And anxiety and I can become friends. And guess what? Your name will be changed to... I don't know, something else that's not named anxiety. And guess what? There's change and growth there. I don't think you'll ever quite go away. And I think you'll always be the love of my life. But I think it's about being kinder to one another. And eventually, people will be like, hey, look at that guy with his anxiety. They're looking hot together. They're friends. Maybe I can be like that too.
Yeah, I think, to end this, it's being aware of your anxieties, accept your anxieties. Just because you accept them doesn't mean they're going to go away, but at least you acknowledge them and
be aware of yours and others. Try to listen more and also try to have compassion for not only others, but also yourself. And that's where we'll leave it because high anxiety ain't fun, but it could be when you're high. Thank you so much for watching and listening and have a great Friday afternoon.